I grew up in Southwest Michigan working for a family drilling business that was water and geothermal and geo exchange, heating and cooling geothermal. Ended up going to college and landed an internship that took me to Houston to Halliburton, the Baroid Drilling Fluids Division. And that's exactly how you get a farm kid out of West Michigan into geothermal. We needed a voice to be able to have discussions with major players and engineers and talk about where we fit. How do we all come together and start talking about the engineered specification piece of it and the tribal knowledge piece that you get from industrial drilling? We're going from an industry that had 12 to 14,000 drillers across the country, and that's mining and oil and gas and water well and all these pieces, to now looking at needing 60 plus thousand more drill rigs. You don't know how exciting it is to be part of like drilling and discovering the unknown until you're there.
Welcome to Geothermal Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the frontier of geothermal energy and its role in the global energy transition. I'm Elizabeth Cambry with the Valorec New Energies team, and I'm here to help spotlight the innovators, technologies, and stories driving geothermal forward. Today, I am thrilled to welcome my guest, Brock Yordy, the co-founder of the Geothermal Drillers Association. So why don't we get things kicked off today, Brock? Maybe give us an introduction of yourself. You are living in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I'm really curious to learn how a guy in Michigan is so involved in the geothermal industry. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yes, I grew up in Southwest Michigan working for a family drilling business that was water and geothermal and geo exchange, heating and cooling geothermal. Ended up going to college and landed an internship that took me to Houston to Halliburton, the Baroid Drilling Fluids Division. And that's exactly how you get a farm kid out of West Michigan into geothermal. Is I did an internship, and in the middle of it, they hired me. And it was the early 2000s, and we had so many things. We had a focus at that time for big drilling companies looking at geothermal and the options. And we had innovation happening. And then the fracking boom happened, and we shifted all of those funds to unconventional, easy, obtainable, shallow drilling. And we moved away from all that cool, high pressure, high temp. But I was trained up on it, and it was exciting to think about that opportunity.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's dive into the story behind how you came to co-found the Geothermal Drillers Association.
It's the drilling industry, we're in it, and it's so vital to progressing civilization when we think of from water to rare earth minerals to our entire petroleum boom. It drove the industrial revolution from spindle top to what we were capable of doing, and making rigs bigger and being able to go deeper. And we see it this way, but we're small. And so, as we have water associations that talk about water drilling, and we have mineral and mining, and we have oil and gas and the IADC, and we have geothermal, we didn't really have a drillers association that was talking about equipment and technology and basically uniting drillers. And from the big brother side of oil and gas, big relationships with the property owners or our big players, along with the engineering and whatnot. And when we get into the smaller industrial drilling, is what I'll call it, which is water and geothermal and construction, these companies can be 5 employees, less than $3 million a year, and they're growing because of what we have for geothermal. But we needed a voice. We needed a voice to be able to have discussions with major players and engineers and talk about where we fit. And so it was more about how do we all come together and start talking about the engineered specification piece of it and the tribal knowledge piece that you get from industrial drilling, because all the lessons and learns that we've had in oil and gas, if you look at water drilling from 3000 BCE on, like it's very much you do it, you pass it on as a family business or from a tribe or a community, but we don't have the books. Like you can right now in any sort of forum grab an oil and gas drilling manual or a solids control drilling manual or all of these great pieces. And we have one book in uh, the industrial side, the groundwater and wells book by Johnson, and you have the Australian drilling manual, but we we need to start sharing our knowledge and making it written so that it's not the same lessons it learns. And so that's how the GDA, Geothermal Drillers Association, got started was how do we bring regulators, engineers, the drillers, the developers all in to talk about drilling and how it fits in this energy transition where big drilling operations, you have the land and the permitting and all these pieces where now we're asked to go drill downtown Manhattan on a postage stamp, and people are going, "Whoa, what? We can't do that here." And so, raising the professionalism of the industry from the geothermal driller side was what we were trying to do.
Love it. Okay, so what year did you found the
It, we're infants. So 2024 is
okay.
when, like everything, it happens at a drilling, geothermal conference. We're standing around and we're having this discussion, and there was some policy making that was happening that was going to change how permitting would work in a state. And I said to another colleague, it'd be really great if we had better representation of one voice and then grab the other voices. And suddenly it was, we should start an association. And then you hire a lawyer and you start a nonprofit. And there's a whole lot, as a driller, you're like, let's roll, we can do this. And then you go, oh, now I need lawyers and money.
Right. So who did you co-found it with?
So my co-founder is Robert Meyer, who works in the drilling space as well and has for many years and has a company that is working with data centers and other pieces in geothermal. And
Okay.
then at the same time, there were many great professionals that were in the room that you've had on the podcast that were some of the first to support and say from a JAG to a Zeta McGavi to Eric Bosworth, all of them went, heck yeah, this is something we could get behind.
I love it. All right. What is the core mission of the association and what are your key objectives of that you're focused on this year?
So the core mission is to raise the professionalism of drilling on the industrial side. So this is the smaller rigs, but big projects with big revenue behind, drilling 1,000 holes in one urban area. And so what we needed to do was we needed education outside of the drilling industry to developers and regulators and engineers and all the partners that are involved. And then the next piece was how do we train a new generation? Because we're going from an industry that had 12 to 14,000 drillers across the country, and that's mining and oil and gas and water well and all these pieces to now looking at needing 60 plus thousand more drill rigs and new professionals transitioning from other jobs. And we have all the great professionals that work in oil and gas that are looking to work in another sector, but we still need more people. And so it was how do we look at roles and responsibilities? How do we work with the Department of Labor on how it's recognized? How do the operators unions fit in where there are many states, including Illinois, which in 2009, I got to help start that apprenticeship program, or I helped influence education and have worked with them. But the idea was how do we get to a manual? How do we get to a curriculum that is um, all encompassing for a good foundation? So we can
Yeah.
go from how you drill in Illinois to how you're going to drill in the Rockies or how you're going to drill in the Southeast or how do you drill in the Dakotas? And that was the piece was education outside of the industry and then how do we take that education inside with our group and scale to a place that we have a workforce that can get us there.
So then are you currently working to put training materials together, a certification program? What steps are you moving in that direction?
Certification program is critical, but the first steps is we've had drilling licenses throughout the country for other phases, and so those are state regulated. But training programs, yes, looking at setting up what's called a center of excellence so that there is an actual school new to the industry individuals can go to and learn all of the base fundamentals, the safety. Safety is so critical. And on the mining and oil and gas side, we've done a great job. But in industrial, we we work in a backyard of a home, and safety can become relaxed. And so, looking at safety to terminology to what is the role and responsibility to it, and how do we take that person from day one to year five and
Right.
still want to be part of our industry and growing.
I love that you're taking this initiative to focus on certification programs. There's definitely a gap in the industry. This is needed. How hard is it to implement something like this? Do you have to get multiple parties to buy into it? Where are you in the process of doing it as well?
I love this question because you know there's so many pieces to drilling a borehole to a depth. And with your background and the things you're involved in, we can talk shallow, and shallow on your side could be 3,000 feet. And you could talk deep, and it could be, you know, 30,000 feet in extreme pressure and temperature. And so when we start talking drilling on the industrial side, we think deep is 1,500 feet max, and not getting into the big pieces of high pressures or volatile gases, or trying to lower the risk. And so when we get parties involved, we instantly, somebody goes, how dare you call yourself the Drillers Association? And it's like, wait, so we have to find this common ground and understand the the base is the same. We want to get to a resource, and we want to be able to harness that resource, and we don't want to hurt Mother Earth along the way. We want to make sure that our neighbors and our environment are like, do it again and do it again. And so as we look at other associations and working groups and whatnot, it comes up often. And as our political shift happened this July with energy incentives and whatnot, with the big, beautiful bill, home energy tax credits went away. So residential slowed down, but commercial and this idea of owning energy as a service from heating and cooling or power generation became viable. And so suddenly there's more people looking to how do you partner. And so, like, the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association is the heating and cooling side, and we have Geothermal Rising, that is power generation and heating and cooling. And we have the International Association of Drilling Contractors, which is the gurus, the Einsteins of the drilling industry. And we have state associations, and we have water associations, and we have environmental individuals. It's wild right now, from policy making from uh, different colored states on what's important and how do we all work together. From Texas, as the association opened, Texas, the Railroad Commission took over all geothermal and
Yeah.
then made a statement that geothermal hadn't been drilled since 2001. And the wild piece was Whisper Valley in Austin, which is a heating and cooling geothermal geo exchange, because we think of geothermal all encompassing, and it's there's an identity crisis there, from power generation to thermal energy exchange of heating and cooling. And so it's a complicated question to say how players come and go. The strong associations that want to lift everybody up have instantly been there, and even the Texas environmental group, or the water group, and the railroad commission found the common ground and worked together to say, this is what we need for permitting, and this is how we're going to work together. But it was really about getting everybody in the same room and realizing
Yeah.
that we're there. So I think our goals with power generation and heating and cooling are so closely aligned, and the technology that is driving all the cool technology that comes out of the power generation side that can trickle into how we harness low temperature is really where I think we work well together.
Like, give an example of how the two complement each other.
Um, well, so from low power, like I guess I'd have to back up. The Department of Energy calls low temperature geothermal everything under 150 degrees C, right? And, we're talking about harnessing um, constant ground temperature of 50 degrees. And I know I just went from Celsius to Fahrenheit there,
Okay.
but you think about where we talk about for super hot rock. So now if you look at complementing a small megawatt power generation, this phase three stuff that is so cool, like there's waste heat that can be used in an enhanced geothermal system or in a thermal energy network. And so what has happened is power generation is driving technology and downhole tooling and all of these cool things. And at the same time, they're creating a new thermal resource for us, but also teaching us what else we can use. And we're all concerned about water consumption. And so, looking at water conservation's there. But the big one is if geothermal, geo exchange heating and cooling lowers the peak demand on air conditioning and heating, and we're creating more megawatt systems that are on the smaller side that are also adding to our grid capacity. Like we from a technology side, but really from a holistic side of our power grid, if we do it right, we lower peak demand, which allows us to have more power generation demand, which gets us away from needing to burn other resources to make power.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk a little bit about what the landscape looks like for jobs in drilling in the geothermal space. Are there a lot of jobs? How fast is this space growing?
It's it's awesome. Like again, I think we all looked at what was happening in incentives and went, where will we be with power generation and heating and cooling? But the reality is like from drillers and blue collar jobs, there's entry level from you know logistics and truck driving to being a field technician is our term in the which would be the entry level role that handles tools and moves pallets of material and stuff into an assistant driller into a driller. And at the same time, we see job opportunities now for new engineers working on either side of looking at thermal energy resources. We see geologists and hydrogeologists and like we need we need everything from I want to graduate high school and I just want to go to work to I'm going to college and I want to be an expert at, you know, hydrogeology into like hot water temps or deep hole petroleum geologist. And so the demand that is causing it on both sides right now, it's choose your role. And even to that point, we see social influencers now. And we see there's so many there's policy making, there's
Geothermal?
yes, yeah. Like, seriously, we look at the different pieces from the excellent things that are happening with Geothermal Unleashed to Project Interspace to like we had a geothermal music video a year ago.
Oh
Like,
yeah, we did. Yeah.
there's there's so many pieces that are opening up this opportunity, but from a laborer idea, like just in heating and cooling, from now to our 2030 goals to 2050, we need easily 100,000, if not 200,000 new workers in this
Yeah.
space. And to
That's
put that into perspective, there's 154 million Americans that work every day in the US. Only 8.25 million work in construction. And that's our mining and oil and gas. So, like, when you think about our role and responsibility, though we have a massive impact, like there's more people employed at McDonald's than there are drillers,
Good way to
right?
look at it. Yeah. So, what would you say are some of the most significant skill gaps that exist in the geothermal drilling workspace today? Work,
Um,
let's
you
say.
know, excellent. And oil and gas drilling is teaching us the way. I don't want to be an old man, so I'm 45, and the average age of a construction driller right now is about 55, 60. It's
Wow.
so we have an age gap, but in that age gap, we've lost this space of get muddy, go get dirty, beat out in the rain and the heat, and until you're on a rig, regardless if it's mineral exploration, petroleum exploration, water, like you don't know how exciting it is to be part of like drilling and discovering the unknown until you're there. And so we have this whole generation that's like, uh, July was the hottest July on record, by the following one being that. And why would I want to be on a drill site in July? And so the first piece is like getting a new workforce that wants to be out there. And then
Yeah.
the next piece is technology. And from what we see in automation and risk mitigation on rig platforms that oil and gas drives, we need that into our piece so that we have tool handling automation. We mitigate the risk. We get back to the sophistication of joysticks and things. And then I think we can grab those skill sets. But right now, it's unless you're from rural America or you live in Texas or Oklahoma, like it's not common to say, I want to go work on a drill. Like
Yeah.
there's more people that work at
But
Amazon warehouses.
yeah, it's interesting though. I feel like folks, at least where I went to school, everyone wanted to be in the renewable energy space. I graduated maybe back in 2008, and I went to a school where there was no degrees related to petroleum engineering. And everyone was so gung-ho about renewable. There's just no jobs. I feel like people would gravitate toward the geothermal space. Maybe it's just folks not knowing what the job opportunities are.
It's wild. I graduated not far before that. We were focused on geothermal and renewables, and we see it from other discussions on where we were headed. Um, we do see a green workforce that is, under the age of 35. And I do believe those new to the industry, the veterans, the people transitioning out from jobs that are changing because of what renewables has to offer, they're all excited.
Yeah.
It's back to skill set or roles, like just becoming a customer of a renewable energy resource or an adopter drives us to want to do it more. And so you're absolutely right. You look at the floods, you look at the extreme weather events we've had, and we have a new generation that's like, the planet is changing. And so, yeah, I think they're enticed. Now it's um, being at an ag school, or heck, I
Yeah.
just read an article that showed TCU is doing a course on landmen, what's
Ah,
reality and what's not. And the
what's
fact that,
reality and what's not reality for land? That's so funny. That's funny. That's a good
yeah,
show. Okay, let's see. Uh, who's a part of your association? Do you have drilling companies that are currently members? Who are you trying to um, get to join your association?
we have a fantastic cross section and we are growing and working on many different pieces. Yes. So when it comes to the geothermal heating and cooling exchange side, um, every I'm not going to say every the major players, and we have on our website and on our LinkedIn. But Jaws with Bedrock Energy, supports us, and Tracy Ogden at Brightcore supports us, and Dandelion, and I believe I'd have to look, but we do have some oil and gas players that are now in the geothermal side that have, I don't want to say them and then them be upset, but Malcolm Drilling, which is one of the biggest drilling companies in the country for construction drilling. And then the legacy geothermal on the Geo Exchange side that have been drilling for the last 30 years, they are also involved and they're on our board. And so the goal was when we opened this was how do we raise the professionalism, but how do we not become a burden on another association due? We wanted to be able to give back, have employer engagement meetings and have educational meetings where our advisors and our members say, this is what we need right now. If it's standard operating procedures, or if it's safety, or heck, there's a project about to go on that's a massive lift in bonding. And so having a discussion on what it takes to bond a $300 million project versus geothermal projects for the longest time have been 25, 30, like a $75 million one was, high. And so
Yeah.
that bonding and insurance and surety is a whole new level of, as I think of my days with Bayreuth and Halliburton, that that wasn't that was a drop in a bucket in what
So,
was
so
happening.
that's being requested by your members.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. All right. I'm curious from the space, what technical innovations are you seeing that are most urgently needed? Or is the technology there for shallow geo exchange drilling?
What's what's funny is as we look at bit technology and we think about PDC bits, polycrystalline diamond compact, GE invented that in 1971. It was fully proven to be able to compete with downhole hammer technology by like 75. The oil and gas side, we didn't really start adopting it until the early 2000s. And then you can see where it took off from there. And I take that back. It would have been the 90s that it started being adopted and moving on. And so what we get passed down in bit technology or things that are now widely built really improve our advancement in what we can do. I was at Texas A&M for the Project Interspace geode stuff, and we were talking about drilling in granite, and they were like, "You can do 100 feet an hour in granite if you use these bits." And it was like, we don't have access to those yet. Those things are cool. That's the analog, like, give us a bigger
Yeah.
hammer and we can get it done. The downhole diagnostics that we have on the petroleum exploration side of being able to look at reservoirs or look at resistivity or the wireline logging piece that I remember being so involved in 20 years ago. If we had more of that in our side for a shallow 850-foot hole, to be able to look at the resistivity, be able to look at, what's giving us the thermal resource we need, because we're using the constant temperature of the ground at a low temperature. And so it's not a big borehole. And then you have drilling fluid material and you have other things that go in there along with a impermeable grout that is thermally conductive. But we build with contingency in place to ensure we have enough tonnage. Whereas it would be very much like as we look at what is the yield of this well in megawatts and how do you get there? There's so much infrastructure and investment in having this proven, right?
Yeah.
Where right now we're very analog. And so we have test holes and we do in situ thermal conductivity testing that gives us a baseline. But if we could prove it more with some of the brilliance of what, SLB and Halliburton and Baker Hughes and all the great technology companies that started as, drilling companies, like we'd have some big stuff. So really, data is king. And if
Data,
we
I
could have more
agree.
data, and as we watch these awesome startups pop up with, 3.0 of power generation, what is driving it? The Einsteins out there that have been,
Yeah.
thinking of this for years.
I know it's really, really cool to be a part of the industry and hear about so many different approaches and innovations. It's very exciting. Okay, so I've got time for one more question, and I want to ask you, what advice would you give to individuals who are interested in exploring drilling careers in geothermal?
Uh, do it. Yeah, I joke that anybody who watches the movie Armageddon, where Michael Bay proved the fact that it was easier to teach drillers to become astronauts than astronauts to become drillers, which is ridiculous, and we all giggle about it when we watch it. But um, I wasn't ever going to be smart enough, and I'm a little too fat to be an astronaut. But like getting to drill around the world is so exciting, discovering the unknown. And then you look at like our goals and opportunities right now in geothermal, from a geothermal big G with power generation or little g with us in heating and cooling, getting to tap those resources and see things come out of the ground and be part of changing how energy is harnessed and how we work with our planet is like, I wouldn't say it's like being a rock star, but like there's this piece of like I'm part of a building generation that will influence the next 500 or 1,000 years. Yeah, MIT, I was with them last February and they did an open course and I taught on drilling. And they said right now, there's a good chance by 2100, we would have a 3.1 degrees Celsius rise in temperature. And as we
Wow.
have talked about 1.5 to 2 degrees, like every bit of what we do right now in drilling is so important. And then you take the data aspect of what a data center is consuming and resources. It's another being, from water to energy to space to workforce. And you think about what we can influence there, let alone what we can influence on a city and a community and all the other pieces. Like there's nothing more exciting than the innovations that are coming out and the insights and the passion that's happening in geothermal right now. So I'd say do it. Like start entry. You can become an Einstein and be innovating the next level of it, or you could just be out there punching holes where you're defying physics and gravity and like harnessing Mother Earth.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Geothermal Unleashed. And I hope today's conversation with Brock has offered fresh insights and sparked new ideas about the future of geothermal energy. As we continue to navigate the energy transition, it's clear that geothermal has a powerful role to play, one that's only just beginning to be fully realized. Until next time, keep challenging assumptions, exploring new frontiers, and working together to unlock the full potential of geothermal energy. Thank you.